Hello, everyone. Once again, welcome to Talent Talks by MentorKart. And today we have Mr. Punret Beotra from BeeNext. And the topic, as you know, is very exciting, a VC lens from zero to hero scaling HR in a hyper growth startup. So it means we are going to talk about startup today. We are going to talk about HR today. We are going to talk about talent today. We are going to talk of a lot of things which are going to be having exciting journey. So welcome Purit, and Purit handle the portfolio companies of BeeNext from HR perspective, advise them, help them to work with on the HR things altogether. And I'm sure we will listen from Pundit what he does more and how he helps. So over to you, Pundit. I think so. The first question goes from there itself. That what you do and how you help these portfolio companies which are growing like anything at BeeNext, and from HR perspective, and what is your role? And then we'll talk about more things to come up.
Sure, Ashish. First of all, thanks for having me. Excited to spend time with you and hopefully enlighten the audiences on what is everything about people operations in an early stage startup, right? So a little bit about myself. Been working with BeeNext for the last 2 years now. We're an early stage VC. We do primarily seed and Series A, typically between about 300K to about 3-4 million as our check sizes. Um, and that's where my role comes into play. Once we've given them the checks, once they've come on our family, they usually start interacting with me on everything related to people operations. This is whether who to hire from, where to hire from, how to build out an org structure, to how to retain the employees, the life cycle of employee management, what policies, processes need to be set. So it's the entire human capital aspect. I advise them, I sort of connect them to the right set of people or companies or agencies who can help them with their particular requirement and try to smoothen out their entire human capital journey so that the founders actually can focus on building out the product.
No, that's a great support, I think, to the startup founders who are starting or who are growing, because not every founder is HR experienced, and they come from tech background. They Someone come from business background, etc. And having an advisor like you for them in growing journey is absolutely, and I can totally relate, being a founder and myself for MentorKart, that how it takes to build the team
I
and what
agree
are
there, Ashish.
things happen, and we face every day the challenges, whether it's
It's a very
coming.
important point, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
because as you mentioned yourself, right? I would consider you as one of those uh, unicorn founders who are experienced enough to build our team, right? But the Indian ecosystem has changed a lot in the last 10, 12 years, right? You would see like let's start from a company like Zomato, or let's say a Nikhil Kamas, right? These people little bit had an understanding because either they were working in that particular sector or they
Hmm.
were there who build out their teams in a particular company and before they left that out, right? So they had an understanding of what all goes into not just the product but also the other aspects, right? But cut to today, right? You have people from colleges who not even finished colleges, right, starting off
Hmm.
their companies. So it's very important for us to understand that just because they've got a good product idea might not make them a complete package in terms of hiring, in terms of setting up policies and all those things, right? Legal aspects and marketing and all. So it's always good to, safeguard your bets in a nutshell and provide them all those additional support wherever they require. So I think that's where my role sort of becomes even more critical nowadays because, either you can be a VC who just gives money and waits for them to grow on their own, believes in that ratio of 1 is to 10 companies succeeding, right? Or you actually, help them out in their journey, create that sort of momentum for them. And that's one of the reasons why I really love our founder, Terusan's perspective, right? He always wanted to have that mindset of not only just giving people money to grow because it's a good idea, but also providing them the additional support. So yeah, It's been an interesting journey, and the Indian ecosystem now is very exciting for people like myself. Basically, that I think right now providing those additional support to the portfolios is more critical than maybe what it was 5, 6 years ago. And you always want them to succeed, right? It should not be that just because they didn't know how to do a particular thing or who to hire or how to particularly develop a role that they did not work out or they had to close down. So we want to mitigate all those problems. We want to mitigate as much as we can in terms of their uh, people operation needs or marketing needs or legal needs, and that's one of the reasons why we've got departments dedicated to that.
Sure. Okay. Let's move from there. I'm missing coming to the startup is always talks about, and always buzz in the market about valuation, right? Which everybody talks about. So do you see the HR metrics, what VC look before they invest, when they do a due diligence? What kind of HR metrics they look for in a company which is already functional?
That's a really good question, Ashish. For us, I think human capital is not at the top of the priority just because for us, we usually do early stage investments. So these can be from even a person who's ideated a good product and,
Mm.
either has a pedigree of themselves, maybe build another company which they sold off, or part of a really good startup which is growing very fast, right? So for us, human capital matrix are not as key as a metric as compared to maybe the product or the market or the sector they're targeting. But yes, for us, it comes into picture when we are helping them raise the next rounds, right? Because we also want to provide them that support either by connecting them to the other VCs or ourselves, doubling down on them. So in during that time, the key matrix that we really look out for is how strong is their HR policy? How strong is their top of the line management, right? Like these are people who are either heading departments or themselves, or maybe at the CXO level or something like that. So these two are our key metrics because any VC when they're looking at growth, they don't just look at the numbers, but also look at the team who can help them achieve that growth, right? So that's where people operations really come into play for these VCs and these startups, and you'll see them actually in their decks really highlighting, this is our finance head and this is our marketing head with their experiences, because that's something which really attracts for the next round of investment. So uh, yeah, I think that's where we actually tell them to also look out for the common pitfalls of maybe not having a finance person if you're a fintech company, or if you're not having a strong legal person, if you have patents involved and everything like that. So this is where we sort of advise them, guide them, and help them out.
Great. Um, Coming to the talent, right? And every startup needs a good talent to be acquired at various stage of the company. And building a brand which attract talent is a super important. Even at a very early stage companies, I have seen some of the founders are very good in that. They attract talent like anything, just before even they became a big, right? So um, what is the HR leaders in today's environment play this vital role of building a brand to attract the great talent available in the market at, as per the need of the company? So what do you advise to your portfolio HR people, that what role they play?
That's a really good question, Ashish. So I think on the branding side, it's a team game. Obviously, the HR leaders have to play the pivotal role there, but it's not just them, but also let's say the other heads or even the employees who can help with that branding image, right? Because uh, word of mouth still in India is the biggest source of marketing. If I say that this company is doing well or they've got a really good culture to six of my friends and they give interviews for that company, they'll be more likely to join them than just reading about them online. That being said, nowadays I think we as this generation and the generation after me are being very driven by these online reviews or this online uh, image of a company, right? So two things which I would really advise HR leaders is update your LinkedIn page with proper notifications about the company, the website. Try to post jobs on LinkedIn. You got a lot of free options on LinkedIn to post jobs. Keep posting a little bit about the culture of the company. I think that's one of the things which really new employees or people who are trying to join startups look for, right? Because the biggest difference or the biggest carrot, carrot for the stick for a person to leave, let's say, a well-off job, or let's say leave an MNC type environment, is this startup culture, right? Of people being more than just colleagues, maybe being friends and family. The nuances of working in a let's say a home environment with a house setup, or everyone just sitting on couches, or all those things, right? That's one of the things which really people who want to join startups look at. So LinkedIn is one of the places that everyone looks at. The second, which a lot of people sort of ignore, is Glassdoor. In the
Mhm.
last 5 years, I've seen a massive number of my candidates actually read the reviews on Glassdoor and actually ask me questions that this guy had posted about your company 6 months ago. Has that been resolved? Or I loved that 1 year ago this guy had posted and said that the working environment is amazing, and that's one of the reasons why I applied to the job. So these two platforms, if the HR leaders are monitoring well and if they're up to date, can significantly impact the candidates' likeliness to join the organization. Because at the end of the day, it's about how you convince them, not just by your words but also your actions as well. So these two are the places where the employee folk and the candidate folk like to get validation from. So I think these two are one of the best modes I would feel for an early stage company who don't have, let's say, a lot of budget on marketing to really cement themselves.
So absolutely, the word of mouth is super super important over the period of time, and ultimately people look for reference, and those references are now available on internet. I mean, saying, and we need to see that that how we can have more and more references also being posted. That is also, if someone is happy, why not? You should post it,
Exactly.
right? So something
I
like that.
remember one of
And
these companies had posted their they had a table tennis or a badminton tournament, and they had
mm,
posted on LinkedIn. And one of the candidates that the company had asked me to interview for a senior role, a mid-senior role, had just randomly asked me that, like, do you know how many times they play badminton in a week or a month? Because I'm a badminton player and I like doing that. So all those small things, I just realized that actually make a difference. Yeah.
true. Since you have been talking to a lot of his startup HR people who are into different stages of the company, uh, if I ask you that, okay, Punret, can you list down three or four biggest challenges um, those HR leaders or founders are facing, especially in acquiring a talent, the right talent, I would say. Um, Talent is available, but what is right and what is wrong, and what is that we needed is very important. What are the key challenges you see in their reference?
That's again a very good question, Ashish. So I think one of the biggest pitfalls that I have seen in the early stage company, right? This is, let's say, a team less than 50 folks, is a lot of times attention is given on the hard skills as compared to the soft skills, especially for the leadership folks. And
Hmm.
that's one thing which I advise all of my founders and the HRs, that right now in this day and age of internet, right, every sort of knowledge except soft skills is available online. That is something which you can't teach. It's something which the person needs to on their own learn and on their own sort of create that environment, right? So a lot of, if you see, interviews are focused on especially on the tech side, what type of coding you've done, how have you scaled the company, or the tech stack, or what type of languages do you write in? And very few questions are focused on, let's say, so tell me, what is your mindset in terms of do you want to be an architect? Do you want to be an engineering manager? Do you feel you want to build out a team or something on those lines, right? And that's just something which causes a lot of issues going forward, because um, a startup in their nuances stages, right, always hire generalists because they have the most versatile sort of work experience, and they can wear multiple hats. But when you grow the company to, let's say, Series B, Series C, you become you require specialists, and then these generalists sort of fade away. So if you don't plan their journey out, if you don't know where they're going to be, how can they improve themselves through soft skills or through training modules, then the employees sort of especially the starting folks who actually build the company out, sort of leave or fade away. And that's the second pitfall. A lot of times these founders or these HR folks have no KRAs in place when they're hiring. So usually a founder will ping me saying that, hey, I need to hire a marketing manager, or I need to hire a business development manager. And the first question I ask is, do you have a KRA sheet ready for this role? And they're like, I know this role, I know this person needs to help in growth, help in a little customer retention, help in customer acquisition. And I'm like, that's all right, but do you have a KRA in place? And then they ask me why, and I tell them this answer, that if there's a document in front of you, you and the person you're hiring both have an idea of what needs to happen. And 6 months to a year down the line, it will not only help them achieve their goals, but also help you rate them out and give them the appropriate appraisal, or help them grow in their career and in the organization. So that's the second pitfall which I have seen, is that KRAs are not properly created or not properly managed. Um, the third is salaries. That's one of the biggest challenges on early stage companies, that, hey, we can't pay a person this much, or, our budget is only this much. And then I actually sort of advise them that you need to worry about budget as the last thing. First of all, you need to understand what key areas this person is going to come and solve. Let's say if customer retention is this person is going to solve, and you know for a fact that your next, let's say, fundraise or the next 6 months are very pivotal for customer growth, because that will help you, let's say, launch a new product out and all those things. So then you see who is this person who's fitting this role. Even if this person is a little bit more expensive, you can always restructure the salary in a way, let's say by giving him a retention bonus, or giving him, let's say, ESOPs, or all those sort of nuances, right? Just because someone has a higher salary does not mean that they might not negotiate if they see their growth happening in the company well. So then that's one of the advices I give them, that salary is the last thing, especially for early stage companies, that you should look at, because right now you're only going to hire one resource of that role. That needs to be the right resource. It does not need to be dictated on the fact that what is your buying capacity, because you know for a fact that if this person comes in, it's going to be a domino effect where he'll get good avenues, he'll help you grow faster, and you'll reach your revenue targets better, and then you'll be in a situation to pay him in that like that cost, or the money required there. So these three, I think, are the common pitfalls I see. The first is obviously sorry about that. As you talked about KRAs, the salary. Uh, so these are the common pitfalls that we see.
Absolutely no. KRA and KPIs are must. I mean, saying they need to be defined well in advance before you hire a resource. Hiring a resource is hiring a talent is something where you have decided to invest, and it will give you some ROI over the period of time, and that may not be immediately next month. It may be 6 months and 4 months or 5 months. Um, and if you are not defining the KRA and KPI, it means you will come to know only after 6 months that he isn't done anything.
Exactly.
And that will be the worst thing to do, because we should know from day one, are we moving into right direction or not, and that
Exactly,
direction is
Ashish.
set from the day one, not the third month. So that could
Exactly.
be, yes, you are absolutely right. And on
So
the
one of the
salary
things on
point,
that, sorry, one of the things I wanted to add on that, Ashish, was the fact that a lot of times people don't understand, especially the early stage founders, that it's not just the cost of the candidate they're hiring, it's the cost that these people are spending in time, energy, resources which they could have utilized on their own product. Let's say they're hiring an engineering manager. The CTO would be spending time interviewing candidates, right? Which would be time away from, let's say, developing the product. Same for the founder as well, right? He could, in that time spent on interviews, be doing other things as well. So all those things really need to be considered into the cost of a candidate, not just what his CTC or what her CTC is.
I agree. And even after that, just to add there, once the person joins, it start adding more cost, because ultimately, as a founder, you will spend more time again building him or understanding the overall culture of the
Mm.
organization. Other people invest time, and then if something is not working out, and if we don't have a KPI carry, we would come to know very late. By
Exactly.
the time it will be a lot of impact. I
Exactly.
totally agree. uh, Coming to the next point, you mentioned about the salary. Uh, there is something called expectations, something called assumptions people have in their mind what they're looking for. So here I always see that if somebody is coming for only money, he will go for money as well.
That's a very good point, Ashish. Agree
Right.
on that
I'm
completely.
saying, if only money is the criteria for joining some company, then it will not be a long story. It will not be a long term game. Uh, what is the person looking for, and why is willing to join you? Why you want to hire you? Before you want to hire you, you need to know why he want to join you and why he is interested to join you. And if that lead that, okay, he's really passionate about what you are doing, what you are building, what you are making, what's your roadmap, and he see in his future in it, and he is able to visualize 1% of what you visualize for your company, then yeah, then it's a marry, because it's like a marriage, right, which we'll to do. An initial phase of the company, it is super important to have such people in the team who are long term. uh, Once you grown, once you scale, you may have some decision for short term, medium term, long term, but initially it is important for us to know that why the person is joining. uh, and salary part, I agree. Only coming for salary or increment, that someone was taking 50,000 and now he's getting 70, so he's joining you, so he will get soon 90 also. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
So I'm saying then there will be no game in this. uh, no, great, I think so. This conversation is going in a good direction. uh, Coming to the overall life cycle, um, when we see the company at an early stage, then it start growing, then start scaling, etc. In this journey, the HR team plays a different roles, and one focus role is that, yes, people, and people and people, but process and technology is also important. Not only people, so it's people, process, and technology. Now, with people, the process comes definitely at a stage where, if people are there and the process is not there, it's like people going directionless, right? So I'm saying, what is that you work with founders or HR leaders of portfolio company to set the processes in place for anything and everything related to HR, or even in non-HR, because ultimately when they work, For HR function, HR function has its own process, from sourcing to screening to recruiting to skilling and upskilling and reskilling and learning, unlearning, everything. But that's one part from the HR perspective. But these people ultimately deployed for a business. Now, that business function also has its own processes, right? And which need to be ultimately delivered. And if they do not follow, those people do not follow those processes, probably the result impacts. So from that perspective, the role of HR in different business functions, to ultimately the people whom they have hired perform their duties. So what is the tips you give to the founders and HRs to ensure that the processes are being created, right processes are being created? Sometimes the process becomes wrong. Right processes are being created, and they are being implemented religiously, and maybe reviewed religiously every time, right?
That's a really great point, Ashish. I think I agree with everything you said there, that uh, very important for not only just people, but also processes in play. How are those people executing work and their life at the company, right? Because realistically, if you have to look, uh, people spend good 60, 70 hours a week, either remotely or in offices, right? Delivering work, and it's very critical to ensure that there are policies, processes in place to ensure maximum outcome of from these people. One thing which I advise my founders is, because let's face it, HR policies, processes is not the top of their mind when they're just building out the product, scaling the company and the people, right? The advice I give them is that it's easier to implement things when you're a team of 25 than when you're a team of 200. And that's one thing which has really stuck with my founders as well, because it's a fact that you can try and test a lot of things more easily with 25 people than with a 200 member org, right? And once whatever is the things that is sort of, so there are two things you have to look at. One is the formal culture which is set, and one is the informal culture which is set. So the formal culture is the HR policies, processes, the rules, regulations. The informal culture is what is being set by the leaders, right? This is either the heads of departments or the CXOs, right? And that sort of trickle down like a grapevine effect. It's very unstructured, and it's literally see and do. So if there were never policies in place of applying for a leave or applying, for reimbursement, those CXOs who would never do it, when you ask them to do it, when a team is of 200 members, they won't do it. And if the juniors see the same effect that, hey, this is not something which is implemented that much because our bosses are not doing it, so we don't need to take it that seriously. So that sort of effect leads to you not being able to even implement the basic things easily. Um, and that's why it's better to set these policies, processes up front. And the best thing is that you can actually play around these policies a lot. Let's say I'll take an example for a leave policy. So if you're a team of 25, right, let's say you want to implement a 20-day leave policy. You see that, hey, people are not taking that many leaves, or you are seeing that everyone's just working, and you want to create a work life balance. So you can actually then set a policy that you have to take a week's leave once a year, irrespective of whether you want to take it or not, just so that you are also have a work-life balance. We don't, you don't burn yourself out. Or let's say you see that people are trying to take leaves together, so you can actually create a policy which helps them improve that sort of process by helping them manage those days when they're not in office, by giving the second in command more power and all those things. So all these things can easily be played around. The other thing which I advise our portfolios is that have the government mandate documents and policies immediately as soon as you reach a team of 20. These are your policies of PF, your ESIC, just because these are small things that don't seem that big a thing till they become a big thing, and then you're stuck trying to rectify all these mistakes. So these two are the key advices I tell them in terms of policies that, hey, try to do it before your team of 25, 30 members and get the government policies into place. And also ensure that whatever region you are in, your headquarters are in, you are adhering to, let's say you're in Bangalore, so you know what the Karnataka rule is in terms of, you having a nameplate with not only just English but also the local language as well. Or if you're in Gurgaon, you have to have some documents displayed on your notice board. So all these nuances, just because I know as a early stage founder, right? Maybe you don't even know that these policies are important, but if you've gotten a list of these documents that you need to cover, you just do it immediately. And that's one of the things that we've done here at BeeNext, is that we actually have a list of documents which they can use as templates to just set up their own policies, processes, instead of them going out in the market asking people or all these things. The second thing which I advise them, this is not the policies, processes, but these are more on the tools that they can use. Nowadays, a lot of great tools are there to ensure a smoother life cycle of an employee, right? Whether it's an ESOP management tool, or whether it's a LMS tool, or whether it's an ATS tool, right? Just because resources are cheap in India does not mean that you should not look at tools that can actually help you achieve your goals faster, even if they're at a little bit of premium cost.
Hmm.
The one thing which my founders keep telling me is that, this is for 1 lakh rupees, or this is for 2 lakh rupees, very expensive for us. I would rather just get an HR junior person who can do some of this work or most of this work. And the advice I give them is that it's good to have a resource. All like HR resources are the pivotal thing, especially when you're scaling, right? Because they not only hire people but also onboard them, create that entire atmosphere. But just relying on just a human capital team is not going to always achieve success, right? In this day and age where technology plays a very pivotal role, you should really learn to embrace technology for not only just your marketing or sales team, but also the HR team as well.
No, interesting actually. From the perspective of processes and policies, they are important at even at a first stage. When you start, when you hire your first employee, yes, you are supposed to do certain documentation. You just cannot go without documentation at all. That as you grow, you will need more and more maturity in dealing those aspects. Um, Great. I think so. Coming to the one last question, probably, and then we'll try and sum up this overall. The hiring of a or acquiring a talent at various stages startup is different. Um, since these videos and talent talks also watched by um, many youth, young early stage um, career building people, 0 to 3 years, you can say, which is mostly on MentorKart platform across access we have. Um, there's always a question whether they should start a career if they are having an opportunity to start with a startup versus to a company which is large enough in joining them and attach a big brand from day one. Versus joining a startup company and exploring your skills and upgrading your skills. What is that advice to those youth who are starting their career or switching the early stage career, Punrit, from your side?
You've put me in a very tricky spot, Ashish, because I would always love them to be part of early stage startups and join our portfolios. But I think it comes down to the fact of their comfort level, right? Because I've seen a wide spectrum of HR folks, especially the early stage folks. Even in when I was doing my MBA, like people who had opted for HR, there was a wide scope of folks who wanting to just focus on HR operations. This is they're good at documentation. They're good at ensuring that all the employee information is properly tracked. To people who were more focused on the employee growth in a company. So how can they create training modules, or how can they create learning modules to ensure that the employee grows in the organization? So I feel it's everyone has their own taste and preferences. In a bigger company, in a more structured organization, I would suggest those people who know what they want to do. Let's say if they want to do HR operations, so I would advise them to join a bigger company where policies and processes are already set, so that they can learn that there, as compared to just running around and trying to set up on their own without having practical experience. Theoretical experience you all get in your MBA, but the practical experience is something that is very important to have. For people who don't know what they want to do but know that they want to be part of the HR team, I would suggest an early stage company, because there you can literally wear multiple hats. You can learn on the go, right? Whether you want to be a recruiter, whether you want to be an ops person, whether you want to be an HRBP, whether you want to be on the training side, because you can do multiple things in that company. And if in a startup, they're also have that mentality of learning as you fail, right? Because I think that's the best learning method there is. So my advice is, if you're not sure about what you want to do, but know that HR is what you want to do for the rest of your life, join an early stage company. You can wear multiple hats, you can do multiple things. If you're more sure of what you want to do, I would suggest join a bigger organization, so that the first 2 3 years of your life you actually get that learning about how policies are set or processes are set, or how hiring happens, or how organizations are structured. And then once you have that experience, you can join any startup because of the experience you have. The other advice I would give all you young HR folks is, nowadays there are a lot of good HR communities who not only have online sessions but offline, which offline catch-ups as well. Try to be part of as many of them as possible, because when you interact with senior HR folks there, when you understand their journey, when you understand what they are doing or how they reach that level, that will give you a lot more exposure comparatively than trying to figure out things on your own. So I think that's another thing which has really helped me in my early career, was being part of these HR communities, being fortunate enough to be mentored by some really amazing HR leaders who guided me and advised me on how to proceed in my career. So I think these two things are what my advice would be for the younger generation.
No, absolutely, I think so. Great about it, and I can also you know, on a easy side, I can say that if you want to have experience written in a resume, say 3 years of experience is equal to 6 years of experience. HR as a startup, where you work for double or triple of the years.
Yeah,
It does not go by calendar year; it goes by hours of how much you work every day, and that is
very
very
well
important.
said.
And so that is very important. And if you want to have 9 to 5 or structured, fine, it's okay.
Yeah.
However, nowhere it is like that. Until people work extra miles, they do not grow beyond average. And it's very very important for every one of us to stay relevant all the time at whatever um, career we choose. And I always tell to my students who come, and whenever I have a founder discussion with them, I always say that no one is there for permanent. To stay there, wherever you have reached, you need to do more hard work than only by reaching. You may reach to a certain stage, which is most destined what you have thought of, but staying there is very important, and for that you will have to do a triple time efforts, three time efforts, then to stay there. And I always give example, whether it's Virat Kohli or any other sportsman or any other CEOs working in a company, um, organization become unicorns, then it has become more difficult for them to stay there as unicorn, or grow beyond that than the reaching itself. So no one is permanent anywhere. Everybody has to put and keep effort doing for staying. Um, Also, one topic comes when we talk to student these days. You might be seeing the reports. The skilling in India is very very important. This much of youth uh, need direction, and people say, "Hey, employability is a problem." In India, after graduation, only less than 50% people are employable. Um, and there was a conversation going on. I also heard from some many people that are we really fighting with employability or we're fighting with mindset? Why? Because more than 80% people who are unemployable, or not employable are still preparing for government jobs.
Exactly. And that's a very good point, Ashish. I'm really going to be using the quote you said there. That's something which I'm going to be just letting you know in advance, going to be
So,
using it. But I
sure.
100% agree that
So
it's not
that's
about,
very important.
yeah,
And I also heard many people saying some of the talk I don't remember that person who has also mentioned this, that, that's the reason. And I always say it's a mindset. If I want to be employable, no one can be stop me to be unemployable.
that's
Simple.
where. So that's a very, so I'll give you a very common example in this. In my first company as a startup, it was called Docon Technologies. There was this a kid we had hired from college, and we had hired him in the customer support team.
Hmm.
He wanted to move to data analytics, and that's a very different aspect because you really need to learn Python, you need
Yeah.
to understand all those Tableau and everything like that. And every day after his shift at 6, he would sit in the office because our office was open till 9. And from 6 to 9, he would, on his own laptop, practice this Tableau, Python coding, and everything like that. He went to our CTO and kept bugging him of how should I learn to code in Python? Can you advise me or recommend me some books or websites? And 7 months down the line, right, we had an opening of a data analyst, and he said, "Can I apply?" And we were like, "Of course you can." He applied, cleared all the interviews, flying colors, and right now he's actually a senior data engineer in one of the big companies in Bangalore. And that's just as you mentioned, right? It's not about you reaching that point. It's about how you grow from that point and then to the next point and then to the next point. Hard work will always get you what you want. If you just want to sit day and complain, but you can do that as well, right? There's no harm in that. But uh, if someone wants to do something and if they put their mind to it, more often than not, they achieve that goal. So I think it's just about the mindset of people.
Yeah.
It's not that India has unemployment ratio at a high time, all-time high. It's just that who wants to get a job will get a job, right? Whether they'll study under a lamppost or literally walk 100 kilometers a week to go to coaching centers and everything. It's about their mindset. So it's I think that's enough said.
Absolutely.
Uh,
And
People
just
can.
to Yes, yes. And just to there was a lag in between. So just to give you a last perspective, as you know that MentorKart is a career and skilling and job tech platform, and we deal with candidates and students every day. And so just a recent situation happened when the companies come for interview. They give, okay, this is a CTC, starting CTC. We will offer. This is the job role. This is the description, etc. And some of the people we notify that they just reject, they don't apply. So we
Mm,
said, why don't you go and talk to these people? I am not applying it. They
mm,
said the package is low. Okay, package is low, that's why I'm not applying. What is the package? Okay, this is the package, but you're not applying because package as per you is, and you are a fresher. Okay, you're not started here.
mm,
But you
mm.
see the package is low. So I said to them that we need to change this, right? So maybe ask them to say appear. If you get selected, we will request the company to give you a higher package, right? And as such, people who are avoiding the interviews
Mm.
could not get selected even in next 5 companies. Test out yourself first what you deserve.
Mm.
If you deserve, they want to offer, you can always ask for more.
Of course.
But leaving interviews by reading in job description, sitting at your home, ideal at home, That's the mindset I'm talking about. So I
That's
just
a
wanted to
very
give an
valid point,
example.
Ashish.
That's
Hmm.
the example I wanted to say. Somebody who
Hmm.
doesn't want to work, just want to work, he will get the work. Somebody who doesn't want to, who's looking for some comfort, or is somebody sitting in a comfort zone, will not get a work. Because people who want to hire you are not looking for comfort zone people, they're looking for people who can work for them, right? So, and some of the counseling session when I take, I always tell to the students, okay, how much you should get? I said, at least 6 lakh rupees, 6 LPA we should start with. So fine.
Hmm.
um, okay, what the company will get? That nobody has answered. I said,
Exactly.
boss, somebody will pay you 6 lakh, will you give him in return 60 lakhs? How can I give? It's because that's what company look for, boss. You know, that they need 10x return from every employee. Tell me how it is possible, right? So I'm saying some of
Agreed.
these facts are to be taught to our kids, well in advance in a education system or outside education system. The facts of life, that why someone will pay you, what you're supposed to do it for them, how they choose you.
Hmm.
So you were talking about soft skill thing, right?
Hmm.
This is also part of soft skills, that they need to be taught the reality of the world, that how.
Agreed.
So what will happen, the mindset will change and the employability will increase.
Exactly, Ashish.
That
I
is how
100% agree on that.
we should all work towards. We're trying to cover, do it bit from our side as much as possible to our candidate, and they understand. Many students understand, okay, no, you are right, sir, actually I should get the work first. Okay,
Hmm.
so that's how is very important. Okay, it was
I
nice
agree.
conversation, Punret. um Thank you so much for joining and giving this support out. Let's continue to work together and build something. We are into the You are into the HR, so ultimately you are helping people. We are into the career skilling and upskilling and job tech, so obviously we are both engaged in that same domain. And let's continue to be in touch. And thank you for your time and valuable time, whatever you have taken out from your. And it's conducting a talent talk also had his background, like we at least talk 2-3 times before we come here.
No, hmm,
So it's a
no,
time
Ashish. No.
consolidated by you. Okay, thank you so much, Kundrit.
Thanks, Ashish. Thanks